There's one experience that we absolutely should not be re-rendering a ton of the list items on, and I want to show you that. If we profile and then just highlight one of these and then unhighlight it, that's 2 commits. So we had 2 times that we updated stuff. But in both of those cases, you'll notice that we're re-rendering all of the list items. So talk about wasteful. We only really needed to re-render the list item that was highlighted and then unhighlighted. But if we look at this, we see it says that this list item changed because the highlighted index changed. But we actually don't care about whether the highlighted index changed. We care about if the highlighted index changed and ours is the index that it changed from or to. So what we're going to do is implement a custom comparator, and that'll be the second argument to React.memo. So the first argument here is our component, and the second argument is a function that we can use to compare the previous props with the next props. So we're not going to do it on the menu, we'll do it on this list item. And here I'm going to take that previous props argument and the next props, and we're going to return true if we don't want it to re-render. So if I just leave that as it is, then you'll notice that we don't get any re-rendering of this. And if I profile that, I'm hovering over this, we're going to get a bunch of state updates, but we're not going to get any re-renders because we're returning true. Now, if we return false all the time, then you'll notice I can profile this, and then I can force a re-render, and we'll stop it, and you'll notice that they're all re-rendering because I'm returning false. So with that in mind, I'm going to implement what React.memo does under the hood for most things. So I can say if the previous props.getItem props is not equal to the next props.getItem props, then we're going to return false. So if that changed, then we want to make sure we trigger a re-render. So that function right here is one of the props here. And we're going to do the same thing for the item, the index, and the selected item. It's the highlighted index that we're interested in here. So I'm going to take all of these and let's just scoot this over here. And if the get item props changed, or if the items changed, or if the index changed, or if the selected item changed, in any of those cases, we want to trigger a re-render. So if we go ahead and save that and we start a profile, then we'll notice that it's not re-rendering necessarily when I'm hovering over these. Immediately it's re-rendering because that triggers a re-render, which ultimately is going to create new items thanks to our all items slice, and then we get a re-render. So it's not behaving quite right. Let's go ahead and stop that profiling and make things re-render properly when the highlighted index changed. So this one's going to be a little bit trickier. Here we're going to say previous props highlighted index is not equal to the next props highlighted index. So if that's the case, then I need to determine, do I care about this particular highlighted index change? So first I want to say if it was previously highlighted, and that's going to be previous props highlighted index is equal to the previous props index. So this is how I determine if this particular list item's index was the highlighted index. And so if it was, then it was previously highlighted. We also want to determine if it is now highlighted. And so if the next props highlighted index is equal to the next props highlighted index, then we know it's now going to be highlighted. And so now all we really care about is whether these two values are the same. Was it previously highlighted and now it still is previously highlighted? Then no, I don't need to re-render. Or was it not previously highlighted and now it's still not previously highlighted? Then no, I don't need to re-render. If it was previously highlighted and now it's not, then yes, I do need to re-render. So basically all that I need to do here is return was previously highlighted is equal to is now highlighted. If that's the case, I don't need to re-render and we can return true there. And otherwise, we'll go ahead and return true, indicating that no, I guess we do not need to re-render. And it looks like ESLint saved me because this should be index. So the highlighted index is the same as my index, then I know I am now highlighted. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And then we'll trigger a profile. We'll highlight over one and unhighlight. The user experience was good. And wow, look at that. That is like a huge improvement. Here, I just want to show you really quick. We're just going to comment that out. List item equals react.memo, list item. That's the default, which is basically just doing this for all of the props here. So if I profile that and highlight one and go away, and wow, look at all of those list items that are rendering unnecessarily. So this is a pretty nice win. We go back to this, we start a profiling session, highlight one, go away, and boom, look at that. That's just glorious. We have only one thing needs to re-render. Now you'll notice that if I highlight one and then highlight another, then here we're going to see two list items are re-rendering in that case, because we need to re-render the one that's no longer highlighted and then render the one that now is highlighted. But we are seriously saving the browser a lot of work by saying, hey, I know a little bit more about what actually matters for what needs to re-render. And so I'm going to give you this custom comparator, which React will call to determine whether or not this list item needs to re-render, and therefore we save the browser a bunch of work. Now I want to just add a note of caution. You'll notice that we saved the browser a bunch of work, but we gave ourselves a ton of work as well. And actually, as I was building this exercise for you, I made a lot of mistakes in writing this code. So this is actually not very easy to do. It's really easy to do wrong. And so you want to be careful when you're doing these kinds of optimizations and ensure that you're really reaping the benefits that you're looking for out of this, which is where bringing up this performance profiler in production mode would be really handy, so you can compare the before and after and see if it's really worth the complexity that you've added to your code base. In review, all that we did here was this one function right here. This first part is basically what React does by default for all of these different props that are being passed. The second part is us just adding a little bit of extra based on our specific domain knowledge of how these specific props are being used, in that we actually only care about whether this current item is highlighted or not. That's when we actually want to trigger a re-render.